What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Travysty3. Hope everybody having a blessed day, spreading positive vibes, man. We got a special interview here today. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself to the people. Your name is?
Latanya Grady, the mother of Andre Grady.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get into this thing. Where are you from?
I'm from Newport News, Virginia.
Okay. How long have you been a resident in Newport News?
Woo. A long time.
A long time. So you raised.
I'm raised here.
Okay. So you raised your family here as well.
Oh yes.
All right. How many kids do you have?
I have 5 children.
5?
4 boys and 1 girl.
Okay. So how would you say how was it like raising them in Newport News? How was that like?
It used to be okay. It got difficult over the years. As I said, I have 4 boys and 1 girl. Being a single mother with 4 boys was kind of hard, but I made it. My oldest son, Andre, he was shot in a drive-by shooting at the age of 5, which left him paralyzed. So my task was very hard, taking care of him and also raising the other ones. I didn't really have too much community resources back then. It was basically the neighborhood helped each other out. So wherever I needed help, I always found it in my neighborhood friends or my close family members, mom, dad, grandparents, but over the years as they got older, it kind of got harder, but basically the community looked out for each other. So that was my main support.
All right, so you said he was shot in a drive-by at 5.
Yes.
How did that, affect his attitude, at a young age? Like,
it never did.
Did
never affected his attitude because Andre always loved. Now, he was the typical young man before he got shot. He was that, I'm going to get into everything I can age, curious, trying to find himself before he got shot. But after that, he was always full of love. Both sides of the family loved him with all their heart. He was like the first grandchild that really like bubbled everybody heart over. So he was always just love. It was never no negativity about him being in a wheelchair. He had his ups and down moments where he got depressed because he wanted to play football, but he couldn't. He wanted to play basketball, but he couldn't. But he found his way around it by helping other people do it. Yeah. So as he got older, he started investing his time with talking to people, like he see kids going to the wrong side. Why don't you go to the recreation center get a football? About me being in the wheelchair. I wish I could have did it. And you got the opportunity. You need to do it. Don't take things for granted. That was his whole attitude. He wanted everybody to see that in the blink of an eye, you could be like him. Yeah. So love positively and spread your love. That's all he was love. Love on wheels, that's what I always called him, because I don't care who he ran across, he always left an impression that nobody would ever forget. It was never no negativity. It was always positive. He never left nobody with a negative, bad feeling. Everybody was happy once they met him. So he never had no bad side of being in a wheelchair. And he not only got shot once, he got shot twice on the same day, but 18 years apart. So basically he was a good kid. He just the area that we grew up in, like I said, a lot of them things had to do with not enough for everybody to do. Yeah. And that's my focus today. Finding things for these young kids to do so they could get out of the street life and become positive.
Okay, so let's recap, take it back to the month of December in 2019. All right, so let's just go to the day where you realized that your son was missing.
Well, we had talked on the 12th and we supposed to have met up on the 13th he was so excited about Christmas. This was his first Christmas where he had a house. He was able to buy all his nieces and nephews Christmas gifts, and the whole family was going to be together for the first Christmas in years. So, and he had bought everybody a gift. He was just so excited. He was like, Mama, I done almost paid for the layaway. I just need for you to meet me at Burlington so we could get the layaway out and you take the stuff home and wrap it up. Our whole thing was we was going to meet at Burlington's at 10. Well, he didn't call me. Andre calls me every day, or either I call him every day. Either the calling wake each other up to see who got what appointment, or our text, or we communicate every morning before our day gets going. But this one particular day, he did not text. He did not call. So I figured he probably running late, trying to get to meet me at Burlington on time. Then he didn't never call or show. So I was like, I went to my appointment. He never showed. He never called. I was like, okay, something just not sitting well with me. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I just felt unedged. And after his brother came home from school, I was like, Andre ain't called, Dre ain't called all day. He was like, oh, he probably busy. I said, no, we supposed to did something. I didn't want to tell him we were getting Christmas. But I said, we supposed to did something. He didn't show up. He was like, he gonna call you later on. He probably got caught up. So I had a meeting later on, and I kept calling around. Nobody had heard from him. Then his sister-in-law, she called. She was like, he never showed up from last night. I just went in the room. I had called her, and she said he had never showed up. And then she called when they checked his room, and nothing had been touched in his room. She was like, nothing ain't been. He ain't been here. Is he at your house? No, he ain't in my house. Then the sister-in-law said she hadn't heard from him. She was worried because he went to the store at 2 o'clock, never showed up. By then, I knew. I said, I'm calling the police.
Okay, so when you call the police, you tell them that, your son hasn't contacted you, you haven't heard anything, family, friends haven't heard anything. What do they do?
I called them. They told me, well, how old is he? I said, he's over 18. They asked, was he over 18? I said, yes, ma'am, he's 31. He just turned 31. They said, well, ma'am, he's grown. We cannot do a report until they have been gone 24 to 48 hours. Call back after 24 to 48 hours. That didn't sit well with me. I called back maybe about 10, 15 minutes later. I prayed on it, called back. Another person answered the phone, and I explained to them, my son is in a wheelchair. By then, it was storming outside. I said, it's storming outside. My son is in a wheelchair. He's in a motorized chair. He has not been heard from since yesterday, the 12th. I said, so I need to do a missing person report. I said, because this is unlike him. He's on medication. He's very sickly. And if you don't get his medication and stuff, and because he has had a urinostomy bag, I said that has to be dumped and changed every so many hours. I said, and if not, then he'll get real sick and he could possibly die of infection. She was like, well, I'm sorry, you have to wait 24 to 48 hours before you could do a missing person report. Then I got a phone call. Somebody must have this lady that called. She said she overheard the conversation, and she called me back. And she said, ma'am, I'm going to dispatch an officer out there to you. But again, you still have to wait 24 to 48 hours. But I'm going to send an officer out. Can you give me some information on your son?
Okay, so you called and another officer
overheard
you speak with somebody, called you back.
Called me back, yes.
Okay. So they dispatched an officer to you. What happened when this officer got to you?
Well, it took like an hour for him to get out there. And the attitude he had when he got out there was like, why do you have me out here in the rain? Basically. I started explaining the situation to him. But when he came in without a clipboard, no nothing, he was like, well, I got to go back out to my car. He went back out to his car. He said, well, I called the hospitals. They ain't got nobody in a wheelchair. No John Doe showed up. I said, of course, I'm pretty sure they don't, because something's just not right. And I'm telling him, he kept saying, well, basically he brushed me off like my child was out here on drugs. Well, kids be out here on drugs and don't tell the parents. Or kids be out here selling drugs and just be caught up into the drug game and just don't want to come home to the parents. I said, for one, he don't live with his mother anymore. He resides in his own place. I said, number two, he's in a motorized wheelchair, which cannot sustain all this rain out here. Well, it's raining really hard. I don't think we're going to go look for him tonight. And I explained to him, my son is paralyzed with one arm. If it's raining hard enough for you, don't you think it's raining hard enough for him? So, and it was cold at that time too. So I'm telling him, can you please go look? He was like, well, what area was your child last seen? And when I gave him the area, he specifically then told me, your son will probably come up later on within a drug house raid or something like that. Parents are always the last ones to find out their kids is addicted to drugs. That right there tore my heart apart, because I'm explaining to the man my son was not on drugs. And if he was, what do they have to do with you searching for him when he's disabled? And I kept telling him, my son is disabled. He cannot walk. He cannot just do this. He didn't just disappear. Nobody has seen him. Can you just ride the area?
So instead of offering help, he just, came to a conclusion
that my son was out here on drugs somewhere, or out here probably selling drugs, and was caught up into the drug game at that time and was unable to answer his phone. He will pop up probably. And when he do pop up, can I just get him a call so they could cancel the missing person report?
Okay, so the officer left.
He left. I begged him, can he circle that area? Can he send a dispatch for an officer to ride the area that he was last seen on, which is the same area that we found him on. And he said, well, it's raining kind of hard. I'll see if I could get somebody to go down that way. Brushed him off. He left.
All right, so you say we found him. All right, so after he leaves, this was taken to Facebook.
I had already took it to Facebook prior.
Okay, so before you even spoke with the cop, you already
I had posted on Facebook.
Made a post on Facebook,
yes.
Letting family and friends know that your son was missing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what happened from the post? What reaction did you get from the post?
A lot of people were saying they would start searching the area, start looking. As I said, it was storming really bad that night. So a lot of people was in waiting on the storm to slack up before they started searching. I told him the area that he would normally take to go to the store, that was the last place he was heading, to the store. About 3-something in the morning, we got a phone call. One of the people who was searching the area found his wheelchair. At that time, I called the police and dispatched them out to the scene, where I arrived on the scene also. So
okay, so 1 second. So there was a search party put together.
No, that was just from the people from Facebook.
From in the community.
Yeah, they just started riding the area after the storm lifted up a little bit. They started riding after they left the clubs or whatever, or being able to come outside. They started, just riding around, seeing if they see him.
Okay. So you get a call saying that, the wheelchair was found, and you called the police. What went on after that?
Oh, boy. I called the police, and when I got there, I thought they would at least be searching the chair, looking around the area. They were sitting in their car holding a conversation with each other. So I got out the car, and by then it had started raining again. I got out the car, and I walked over to him. I said, can y'all please come? My son, I explained the whole situation from earlier, because these was not the same officers. I explained the situation from earlier. I gave them a case number. They basically looked at me as if I was crazy. They basically said, well, your son probably got in a car and gone off with somebody. He probably jumped in a car, probably in one of these houses around here, gone off with somebody. He probably getting high or something. You'll find your son later on in a drug bust up in New York somewhere. I, by then, was broken down crying, begging the police, can you flash your lights? Because it was a church right here with like a basement cover board or something. I was like, can you shine your lights over here so we could see if he's over here, or it was like a field, because it was so dark. So it was like,
what time is this?
This like 4-something in the morning.
Okay.
And it was like a thick fog that morning too. So after noticing, I said his wheelchair had blood on it, and the seatbelt was cut. I said, sir, my son's wheelchair has blood on it. The seatbelt is cut. And they said, well, maybe his battery died. But when we pressed the battery button, it was fully charged. I said, the battery is fully charged. Can you please help me? I'm in tears, begging them. Literally, I'm all to pieces, because I know now something is definitely wrong. My son don't have legs to get up and walk. And this is his only means of transportation, and you mean to tell me you're not going to help me? And they was like, man, we have 24 to 48 hours. What we would do is notate in the system that his wheelchair was found and he was not in it. Somebody will call you probably tomorrow or Monday, because it was then the weekend. It was Saturday morning. He was like, so by Monday morning, somebody should give you a call. Monday morning did not sit well with me. I asked them, can you just shine y'all bright light over there to the field? You know, maybe I'm thinking maybe he got out of the wheelchair and he crawling for help because he hurt because we seen blood. They then ordered me to take me and his father to take that wheelchair home. Do not leave it out there. Find somebody to come get the wheelchair because we cannot leave it out there. And right then we will probably be trespassing on somebody on private property. That so we need to leave the property.
Instead of, you know, because for me, I'm not even a detective, you know. Mm-hmm. If I see blood on a chair and you know, it's cut, this looks like a crime scene to me, first and foremost. So they just ignored that whole fact.
The whole thing. They didn't even actually come over and examine the chair. They just looked at it from afar, from me to you. That's how they looked at it. And they was like, well, basically, you need to just take that off this property. This private property right now, y'all consider as trespassing. Basically, we was treated as criminals. My son was treated as a drug addict somewhere or a drug dealer somewhere gone. And we was at fault for even calling them to ask for to be searched. They wanted their chair off the property, which to me, that was God intervenance because the chair was fully powered, but we couldn't get the chair to move. They said, well, you need to push it. We couldn't get the chair to push. The chair would not budge. I said, that wasn't nobody but God because he did not want that chair to move. Because I was thinking I was thinking if we don't take this chair, they're going to tow his chair or, you know, something might happen to us. So he said we got to get off the property. We trespassing. So in my mind, I'm thinking we're actually at fault. But I knew deep down inside that we wasn't. But they still told us we had to leave. So we left the property, but we couldn't get the chair to move. So we did not move the wheelchair. We left the chair there.
They left as well?
Yeah, we left as well because they told us we had to leave the property.
The police left?
They made sure we left. I don't know if they left, but they made sure we left first. They stayed there. They cut their lights off because they did have like the little shiner light on his chair to make sure we could try to get it out of there. But I told them, see, it's not moving. They cut the light off. They was like, y'all need to leave. We got in the car. We left. It didn't sit well with me when I got home. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. I went back to Facebook. And I told Facebook, we found this wheelchair. Something is definitely wrong. Can somebody please help me? I can't understand why nobody is helping me as far as the police department because somebody did call the police. And I told them they're not trying to help. I need help. That's when David Wilson and everybody else was like, we're going to form a search party tomorrow. Everybody meet.
All right. So, you know, David Wilson helped put together the search party through Facebook. Everybody meets up, but then, you know, what happens then?
We went in the search party a good 5-10 minutes. Where that wheelchair was, directly across the street, there was track marks. The track marks actually followed from the wheelchair to where he was found. And like I said, it wasn't nobody but God because that wheelchair wouldn't move. But it's crazy because after we seen the wheelchair marks and we found him, the wheelchair was able to be pushed with no problem. We could not get that wheelchair to move at all that night before. We struggled trying to lift it, try to move it. It would not move from that one spot. It stayed in that one spot. But that next day after we found him, that wheelchair, just like if you was doing a push chair, it pushed right on with no problem. But directly across the street, exactly where I told them to find him, look over to shine your light. That's where they found my baby at. And it's crazy because my son wasn't even there when I first reported him missing. My son laid out there. He was not deceased until the next following day. So if they would have paid attention to me when I'm not saying that God didn't have intentions, but they took something from me because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And that's what eats me up every day. Because if they would have followed the rules and just listened to the mother, I would have had the chance to hold my son's hand.